In order to begin my animal print, the first thing I need to do is draw a picture of an animal. I chose an owl. I'm going to use my observational drawing strategies, so maybe I'll start with the head and I'll trace the head shape with my finger. Then I will kind of figure out how big to make it, and then I'll try to draw it. I notice the top part is curved. The sides are fairly straight. And then there's another curve at the bottom. After I draw it, I look at it and compare them. If it's correct, I can move on to the next step. If I need to fix it, I can erase what I drew and try again. I had made a big mistake when I started drawing my owl because I placed the head in the center of the picture, or the center of my drawing, but if you'll notice, there's a lot of space to the left of my owl. My owl picture has to fit inside of my printing plate. So what I could do to solve that problem is take my printing plate and move the box over a little bit. Now, this part is not part of my picture anymore, and this is the new outline. Now I have space for the rest of the body and the tail. So I can continue that down. As you can see, the picture of my owl has a lot of texture on it. There's also some patterns, which I might include in my drawing. I won't get too detailed, but I might add some of the texture around the neck. I can add some of the spots. I could even add some of the fluffy texture on the chest, here and there. I'm happy with my drawing, so now I can trace my picture onto a piece of tracing paper. I'll place the tracing paper over it and just begin to copy those pencil lines that I drew. As you're drawing, if your paper gets moved out of place, be sure to carefully put it back where it belongs so that your picture, so that your tracing stays the same. Now comes the fun part. I get to make my printing plate. I'll take my tracing and place it on top of a piece of styrofoam. I'm going to use 2 pieces of tape to tape the tracing paper in place. So I'll find 2 areas that don't interrupt my drawing, and I'll wrap it around the edge of the printing plate so that my drawing stays in place. Then I'll hold my paper with one hand, and using a sharp pencil, I will trace my lines again. I'm going to be pushing hard enough so that my pencil pierces through or rips through the tracing paper. The idea is that I'm trying to create an indent into the styrofoam. So I will do that for all of my lines. Areas that have a lot of detail, like the face, are a little bit tricky, but I'm going to make sure I'm holding my tracing paper in place so that it doesn't wiggle around. That way I can trace these lines even if the paper starts to move when it rips. Now I'm ready to take the tracing paper off. Turn it over. Peel the tape off. If you have a hard time peeling off the tape, ask a neighbor for help. My tracing paper came apart. This goes in the trash. You can see that the lines I drew were indented into the styrofoam. I'm going to go over those lines again with a pen so that I can see them nicely and so that they'll really be indented into the styrofoam. If you missed or forgot any spaces in your drawing, you can draw them now. Now I'm going to prepare to print my image. What I'm going to do is find some nice juicy markers in order to color my picture. If your marker doesn't have a lot of ink in it, then you might not want to use it. So I can use either realistic colors or I could use imaginary colors. That's up to you. I'm leaving some areas white because that's what it looked like in my picture. I need to be sure to color the background as well. That'll make a nice, colorful picture. I finished coloring my printing plate. If you'll notice, I didn't leave very many white spaces. The areas where I carved away will remain white, so I want all of the other area to be covered with color so that my lines that I carved into my printing plate show up. So there really shouldn't be very many white spaces on your printing plate after you've colored it. Now I'm ready to print it. In order to print my printing plate, what I need to do is get a clean, damp sponge. Damp means there's no water dripping out of it. It's wet, but I squeezed all the water out. I'm going to rub the damp sponge on the surface of my paper so that the surface is damp. Then I'm going to place the damp paper on top of my printing plate and I'll rub it. I could even use the damp sponge to rub the back of the paper. As I do that, you'll be able to see some of the marker showing through. If I rub too much, my paper might start to rip. So once you can start seeing through the marker through the paper, you can lift up the corner and take a peek. Aha, it's looking pretty good. I think I'm ready to lift the paper off of my printing plate. And there is my finished print. Don't forget to sign it. And you could do a second print using the same colors or different colors. It's up to you. Now it's your turn. Have fun.